Well, good evening to all of you, wherever you are. I'm Jeffrey Darty, the Christian Whistleblower, coming to you from an undisclosed location somewhere deep in the heart of North American flyover country. We are under the radar, but always, ladies and gentlemen, over the top. I apologize for the slight delay in our episode of Podcast Excellence. For the second night in a row, we had a Rooney incident, and we got the fan on, the door open. So we're hoping for the best. If I should be overcome and fall over, you will know what happened. But ladies and gentlemen, this will probably conclude our day of podcast excellence. And just so you know, Amanda B is the champion of puzzles. So here we go. Let's talk about something that is a puzzle. See how I worked that in? This is a puzzle. It is an enigma. It is a riddle. It is the much ballyhooed and bantered about question of reincarnation. And I believe that within the scriptures, we have an answer to the riddle of reincarnation and a answer to what happens, how it happens, and when it happens. And it's found in the unlikely book of Ezekiel, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to talk about the riddle of reincarnation and answer that riddle, I believe. And sometimes it's a riddle on how to be at your best, ladies and gentlemen, especially if you're trying to seek spiritual enlightenment and progress. Well, in my never ending efforts as a Christian whistleblower, I do provide on my website, jeffreydarty.com, a couple of tools that can help you. Just click on the Mistech sign right there, and you can go and look at all the different Mistech products, put you in the Schumann resonance, and gives you the balance that you need to be the best that you can be in optimization in your physical and your spiritual life. So make sure you do go. And once you decide which one you want, go back to the website. I know I say Jesus doesn't save, but Plastic Jesus does save you 20% on Mistech. Just click there, put in your information, and you will save yourself 20%. We also highly recommend that you try out, just go right here, find out more on the Fluffy, FLFE, Focus, Life, Force, Energy. You can get a high consciousness field in your home, or you can get one within a 300-foot radius around your cell phone. Fluffy home, fluffy everywhere. Pick the 15-day trial that's best for you. Now, these won't make you more spiritual, ladies and gentlemen, but they will put you in an environment which will allow you to maximize your spiritual growth. So, moving into the book of Ezekiel, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, here it is, the secret to the reincarnation riddle in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words. Is that 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Isn't it interesting that the complete riddle of reincarnation would be answered in 7 words, 7 being the number of completion? The soul that sinneth, it shall die. Well, Jeff, that doesn't sound very encouraging. That doesn't sound like it's an answer to a puzzle. Well, that's why you're here, because I'm the Christian whistleblower, and we're going to get deep into this verse, and we're going to tell you exactly what it means. And somebody took me to task today, and if he shows up again, I'm going to block him from the channel, but that's okay. That I put too much weight on Scripture. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the fact of the matter is that I say about 80% of it is dung, but the 20% that is diamond is so good that I still believe that searching the scriptures, especially the New Testament, is still a profitable exercise for those that are seeking spiritual enlightenment. I think it's good for us to search through the scriptures. I still think it's probably the greatest condensed amount of truth available. Non-commodities, probably more. But the New Testament, Old Testament would give you at least the New Testament would give you the background that you need to be able to really handle the Nag Hammadi. So let's look at this. The soul who sins, it shall die. Let's take a look at this and let's break it down word by word. The soul. What are we actually talking about? We're talking about the soul, the living being, the life, the self, the person, the desire, the passion, the appetite, the emotion. We're talking about this thing that is mainly physical. It's not the spirit. The spirit would be more of a wind in the scriptures, whereas the soul is more about the person, the physicality, the desires, the wills, the emotion, the appetites, the animal, if you will, ladies and gentlemen. So the soul, the living being, the self, the person, the desires, those that sin. Oh, there's that word that we don't really believe in, but that's because we don't really understand it, because it doesn't mean breaking a rule. It doesn't mean stealing gum. It doesn't mean slapping somebody upside the head. It means to miss the mark. So we could read this, and if you notice the first and most basic rendering of the word is to miss. To miss, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, it is a archery term, and it has the idea of missing the target when you shoot an arrow. And if you know anything about archery, the reason that you miss the target when you shoot an arrow is because you're unbalanced. So this means when you miss the mark by being out of balance. And this word, I believe, as we look at it and as we study it, and you'll have to take my word for it a little bit, unless you want to get down into this and go through all of the, they call it conjugating, go through it and look at it. I believe that this would actually be better translated and most accurately translated, the soul who continues to miss, the soul who over and over and over again and again and again misses, the soul, the person that continues to miss, that soul, he, she, it, that covers all, y'all. The soul that continues to miss, it shall die. What does that mean? It'll die. It'll come to death. It will certainly die out. It will cease to exist. So, ladies and gentlemen, very pleasant, very plainly stated, the soul, the being, the person that continues to fall short, that continues to miss, that continues in unbalance, it will cease to exist. The soul that sinneth, ladies and gentlemen, will die. The spirit that continues over and over and over and over again to miss will die. Let me offer you my explanation of this, which I believe is in harmony with the scripture, the text, the context, and is also in harmony with the other truths that we learn from the Nag Hammadi and from the other great writings that we look at and understand and lean to. What this is saying is, and Gregory asked, but what is the mark? And who says what the true mark is? Good question, Gregory, because here we go. The true mark is, in my estimation, to recognize and realize that this life is not what it's about, and to move up and become the next step, the next stage of whatever we're supposed to be. This kind of right here. And this kind of is, you come into this life, boom, and you decline in this life, boom. But as above, so below. So this should be spiritual, boom, boom. And when we get off of this, the soul that continues this cycle, that continues to get up and grow and discern, but then to lose, decline, and finally die, it will continue to die. The soul that continues to miss the mark, meaning that we come here in these soul suits, if you will, in these meat modems, as my partner Jay Campbell on The Last Stand calls them. And by the way, I have received confirmation from Joseph Atwell, the author of Caesar's Messiah, this Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Time. He will be with me on this channel. We'll be discussing his great work, Caesar's Messiah. And then we'll take a week off because I'll be in Florida. And then the next Wednesday, so the day after tomorrow, and then Wednesday, the next Wednesday after that, 2 Wednesdays after that, part 2 we'll have of the Caesar's Messiah. So Joseph Atwell, Caesar's Messiah, part 1 this coming Wednesday, part 2 2 weeks from Wednesday. So be looking for that. It's going to be a great episode of Podcast Excellence. So what I believe this verse is telling us, and what I believe is our destiny, is that we come into this life, we learn, we grow, we develop. We learn to love ourselves. We learn that we're not filled with original sin. We've got the spark of divinity within. We learn to love ourselves. We learn to love our neighbor as ourselves. That allows us to live life and life more abundantly. That allows us to walk the ways and truths that lead back to life, back to Father, back to the everlasting life of who we are. And simply put, I think we continue to revolve, reincarnate, until we evolve and realize, oh, this is the game. This life is not all there is. Religion is not the answer. Being divine, being sovereign, being free is the answer. So we revolve until we get to that place of spiritual evolvement where we say, Susan, nice that you found the channel. Until we say, we're not just goo to you by way of the zoo. We're not just a product of primordial soup and evolution and all that stuff. Religion that says my God's better than your God is not the answer. We're born with the spark of divinity within, not with original sin. We're divine. We're sovereign. We're free. Love me, love you, work together, grow together, develop together, move on to the next step. However, if we continue to come back here and get caught up in base human animalistic activities, if we continue to come back here and get caught up in monkey see, monkey do religion, if we continue to get caught up in the fear and guilt control matrices of man-made religions, if we continue to miss the mark, if we continue to be out of balance, I don't know how many times, I don't know how long it takes, but if we continue to revolve and refuse to evolve, we will eventually dissolve. It's not punitive. It's not a punishment. It's not a judgment. It's just you have demonstrated over constant revolutions that you're not interested in evolution. So it's time for a dissolution and for you to go back and to fertilize the etheric realm from which we come from. And that's the way it is. We revolve until we evolve. And eventually, if we don't, we dissolve. The soul that continues to miss the mark will die. It will dissolve. It will cease to be. So that's really the secret. That's really the key. That's really the whole thing in the proverbial nutshell. Learn who you are. Learn what you are. Learn to love yourself. Learn to love your neighbor. And the one that gave us this path said, if you'll do those two things, all the rest falls in line. Because on those two things hangs all the rest. Loving yourself, realizing I'm not filled with original sin. I've got the spark of divinity within. I'm not filled with original sin. Jesus said the kingdom of God's in me, in me. Love yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. If I've got the spark of divinity in me, then you've got the spark of divinity in thee. If I'm divine, sovereign, and free, so art thee. We are divine. We are sovereign. We are free. I made a mistake on the t-shirts, didn't I? They should read, we are divine. We are sovereign. We are free. Wow. And we revolve until we evolve to that realization. And if we don't realize that we're divine, not just I'm divine, if we don't realize we're divine, if we don't realize we're sovereign, not just I'm sovereign, if we don't realize we're free, not just I'm free, then sooner or later, eventually, we dissolve. You're not here to keep revolving. You're here to evolve and to avoid the ultimate irony of having to dissolve. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. If you like this program, if you like this channel, please subscribe and hit the bell so you won't miss any episodes of Podcast Excellence. If you think I'm crazy and dangerous, also subscribe so you can keep an eye on me. And if you like this particular podcast, please give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Stephen Reed asks me, why do we need to realize our neighbor is divine? Really, Stephen? Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. Obviously, you can't love your neighbor as yourself if you don't love yourself. So you realize that you're divine. You got the spark of divinity in you. And you're a human. You've got the spark of divinity in you. Your neighbor is human. They have the spark of divinity in them. So why wouldn't you realize that your neighbor is divine? If we are divine and we are sovereign and we are free, that includes your neighbor, even if he parks his boat in your yard without asking. Still includes him. Let me look at the chat room real quickly as we finish up here, see if there's any questions that I need to answer. I don't want to come back. Well, then don't. The world is built on metaphors. Yes, it is. Meat modems was a Gerald Clark saying. Okay, that's where Jay got it. Again, Susan Sermonin, thank you for coming to the channel. I hope that you'll subscribe and come back. Thank you, Amanda. If your neighbor's an idiot, guess what? You probably are too. But you love you. So love him, love her. We're all idiots in this trying to make it together. Don't get caught up in the religion porn. Perfect. If you want self-knowing, you need to learn your ancestry. It's a good recommendation. It's a good recommendation. Couldn't have said it better. Thank you, 333D3333 worldwide. We can start over. Yes, we can. We answered why we need to realize our neighbor is divine. Because if you don't realize your neighbor's divine, then you don't really realize you're divine. And if you don't really love your neighbor, you don't really love yourself. And if you find it hard to love your neighbor, that means you really don't love yourself. Because Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. So if you really love yourself and you've understood who you are and what you are, then you won't have any problem loving your neighbor. But if you're having problem loving your neighbor, then you haven't really learned how to love yourself, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice, Jeff, tonight. It's happy, Jeff, here tonight. Not angry, Jeff. What if your neighborhood parks his boat on your property? That's a funny one. That's a funny one. I wrote it on my mirror. Divine, sovereign, free. Perfect. I love my neighbor till her husband gets back. Ooh, don't do it, electric crystals. Don't do it. It ain't worth it. There's a lot of women in this world. You don't have to pick one that is already attached to somebody else. And that's a good way to have to revolve, cousin. And that doesn't sound terribly evolved, cousin. That's just my opinion. Let's covet under the, yeah, okay. Coincidentally, this came today. Interesting. Love isn't an emotion. Thank you, Tracy. Bring out the best of your neighbor and it'll bring out the best in you. Good point. I like that. Being in the devil's trap, revolving door, the earth is the devil's lair. I like that, Brad Independent. Don't know if I've seen you before. Welcome. If I have seen you and missed you, sorry. Hey, Jeff, how do you break the fear of hell from being a lifelong Christian? You realize you're divine, you're sovereign, you're free. You realize there is no hell. Are you afraid of Dracula? Are you afraid of a 200-foot tarantula? Are you afraid of a roach the size of Tokyo? No, because none of those things are real. Neither's hell. So don't be afraid of things that aren't real. That's it. If your soul has been sent back to earth many times, what does that mean? That it means, and I'm going to ask this, I'm going to answer this. It means that either you keep coming back to help people out or you're a slow learner. You could be a slow learner or you could be just back here trying to help people out. But it doesn't really matter how many times you've been here. You could get things done where this could be your last time unless you choose to come back. Evolve so you won't have to revolve, evolve so you won't have to dissolve. Amanda says, oh man, I sinned. Yeah, probably like the rest of us. Sin just means missing the mark, though. How you see others is a mirror of how you see yourself. I think that's probably true. Somebody's afraid of the Easter bunny. Earth is hell. I'm afraid of hate. Being of happiness and faith can literally heal all ailments of the body. Yes, I'm afraid of a roach the size of Tokyo. But it doesn't really exist. That's the point. Jama says she's getting closer. Death is the new life. Boom, it really is. I'm an old soul. I deserve to dissolve. No, you don't, Nick. Jeff, nice reply. Thank you. I'm afraid of never ending questions in chat streams. I'm the one who's chosen to come back and help. Have you ever heard of the series? Nope. What you make of YouTube testimonies of people having prophetic visions of heaven and hell? Well, it's either good drugs, bad food, or the Stockholm syndrome, spiritual Stockholm syndrome. How is dissolve different from the fear of hell? Well, you tell me, Steve Staub, how is it different to say, if you don't do what I say, when I say, where I say, how I say, you're going to burn forever in writhing, horrible pain forever and ever and ever, or you're going to cease to exist. You tell me what the difference is, Steve Staub. I think you can figure that out. You seem like a intelligent human being. Too violent for me. I think we're talking about Game of Thrones right now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. We revolve until we evolve. And if we continue to miss the mark and remain in unbalance, we will dissolve. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Tomorrow's Tuesday, right? Tune in for more podcast excellence. Wednesday, Joseph Atwell. Thursday, Consequential Rapscallions with Scotty Roberts. Saturday, I think we're going to have the first installment of Shut Up. It's Rocky Stucci. And then, of course, Wednesday, Joseph Atwell. Rooney's got his claws hooked in the curtains. Great. I have to go rescue him. And until then, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, encouraging you all to guide your own spirit, master your own ascension, be your own guru. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the last generation of real humans. Let's ask questions. Let's question answers. And let's unindoctrinate ourselves And don't worry about Rooney. He's just freed himself.